'Cause I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't wait no more, seen it all change and I know that's for you. Tell me not to wait too long, I don't gotta wait when I make this for you. Tell them not to wait too long, you don't gotta wait when you let fate guide you.
So revival is about the spirit. It is about renewing our American spirit here in Colorado.
When I see these revivals, it makes me so happy because it'll light a fire in somebody and then they can actually do something about it, because we all have to be a part of this.
The thirst for information, breaking the bonds of fear only come when we're knowledgeable and we have information. When we stop fearing, when we have faith instead of fear, then the people start to wake up.
Today begins our Colorado revival of our businesses, revival of our freedom, the opening for our schools, the return to normalcy as we've known it prior to the pandemic.
Importantly for you all to know, I'm just an average guy. I'm not anything special. I've been blessed to have some mentors in my life, Dennis Prager being one of them, who I've gotten to know, and he makes the comment that I'm courageous. I'm like, Dennis, I'm not courageous, man. When I do these things, I'm scared and I'm nervous and it's no fun. And there's a lot of people out there that hate me, and people call my office hoping that I get COVID and die. People call the Medical Board of California asking them to take my license away. People call my local hospital wanting me kicked off medical staff because I have a voice and they don't like my voice. And he goes, no, you don't understand. Being courageous is not having those things. Being courageous means that despite you feeling nervous and despite you have people saying hateful things and despite the personal sacrifice that you're making, you're still speaking out. That's courageous.
So the film, we're starting to see that it's lighting these little freedom fires all over the place. And that was my hope to begin with, is to light these freedom fires and to get people to start acting and doing and becoming who we were supposed to be, which is very engaged civically. And it starts locally. So we've had probably 30 showings now. We went to Missouri. They started a Missouri revival. And then now there's the Colorado revival. And so what we're hoping is that people will just start kind of taking the model and doing it and challenging them, because we have to challenge them. There's a quote, and I don't know who said it, but it said that rebellion to tyranny is obedience to God.
All right, I tell you what, do all of you guys remember these days? Remember? It's incredible to think that it wasn't that long ago that we were all saying enough. We were all saying we're not going backwards, not going back into this pit of despair. We are not going to comply ever again. And yet here we are. Welcome back to America's Mom today. There's obviously a backpedaling happening in the Biden administration. They're ready to lock us all down because of climate. But I'll tell you what they're not willing to do. They're not willing to close the southern border. Thank you for being with us today. Hit that share button everywhere. Send this message out. We have a great guest with us today who knows a lot about what's happening on that border and a lot about the chaos and confusion that the Biden administration is purposely causing. I tell you what, they'll let thousands and thousands of illegals that we have no idea what their health records are. We have no idea where they're coming from. We don't even know if these children are coming with traffickers, who they belong to. We have literally no idea. This administration is creating victims left and right, and yet they want to once again slap mandates on you, the American citizens, because why? Well, you've been compliant in the past, and I think they think you will do it again. That little shot we just had there was from the Colorado Business Revival that spread all over the country. It was an incredible time. And I tell you what, I never thought we'd be back in this position again, where the American government really thought they could lock us down, shut us up, put us back in our homes, and mandate us all. Except this time, of course, there's going to be a virus, but there's also climate problems happening. So I'm going to welcome in our special guest right out the gate. Victor Avila is with us here on America's Mom because he knows the truth. He knows the truth of what's going on with this administration. You've been through an awful lot prior to this, Victor. Thank you so much for being with us on America's Mom. And the debt that you've paid to our country already is way too much to ask of you. And yet here you are now running for Congress in Texas because of the chaos on the border. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back, Sherronna. Yeah, it is a chaos. Even now, it's like a controlled chaos, completely and 100% deliberate by this administration. There's no doubt about that. This is orchestrated. This is designed this way, and thousands of people continue to enter this country illegally, despite what the administration tells you. We're giving them paroles. They're coming up through the CBP One app, whatever. It's all illegal. It's not following our law. It's not following our Constitution, and they're getting away with it right in front of our noses.
You know, you're running for Congress. You've been one of the most outspoken people about the border policies there. What is Abbott doing? What is the current Congress doing? What's the word on the street now? There seems to be a lot of distractions, obviously, happening because of fires in Maui and Ukraine all over again, Hunter Biden. But really, the biggest devastation that's hit our country is these porous borders.
That's absolutely true. I was just there. I was in Eagle Pass, Texas, and El Paso last week, and I saw the buoys on the river and a large presence of DPS troopers or state police. And it doesn't matter. The illegals continue to come around. The razor wire is moved in some instances for them to come up. There's parts where the razor wire ends that will never show you that part. And while I was there was a lady that showed up with 5 minors. 5 children. I could tell you with my experience, they were not all her kids. And, you know, she was devastated. She was in distress. They had crossed the river. They had just crossed the river. We're the ones that actually send her to a direction where a Border Patrol agent might be found. But this continues to happen. In El Paso, there's 6,000 people coming in a day, and putting into these facilities, processing them faster than we can even get a glimpse of them, put on buses from El Paso back to Del Rio to San Antonio on an airplane to wherever their final destination. The airport, let me tell you, in El Paso and San Antonio, I was flying on these flights, and I tell you, a large percentage of the people on those airplanes were illegal. And it's unbelievable. I even joked around a little bit with the TSA agent because he says, everybody get out your ID. This is the machine where they don't need your boarding pass. They just need your ID to put it through the machine. And there's a whole line of illegal aliens next to me. And I tell him, what are they going to show? What are they going to show you to get on this airplane? And he just shakes his head like, why are you questioning me? Well, that's the problem. That no one is questioning them. No one is questioning this administration, whether it's the TSA, Homeland Security, whether it's the airlines that are making millions of dollars and complicit in allowing the illegal aliens to board an airplane without official identification, passport, visa, whatever.
Yes.
All this whole system has been designed, a lot of it by the NGOs, as you know, these non-governmental organizations that are the logistic creators of the movement of the people, aiders and abettors. And of course, you mentioned the children. This is what hits my heart. I'm a subject matter expert in human trafficking investigations and victim identification. And I just cannot believe the amount of children that continue to come in, because one of the policies right now is if you have a child with you, we're not going to apply Title VIII. We're not going to apply the immigration law. You will be allowed in. So people are picking up children. And like you said, we're not vetting anyone. We're not vetting the sponsors. They're going everywhere in our country, and they're ending up in somewhere. And I've flown with these kids next to me, and the feeling that I get of hopelessness, of not being able to do anything as a retired agent is just disgraceful that they continue the child trafficking, the smuggling. Not everybody turns themselves in, and it is tremendous amount of stash houses. The cartel shot at Border Patrol agents while I was in El Paso from the Mexican side of the river. This is stuff that you don't hear about in the mainstream media. And it just continues to happen despite all the other stuff that happens around the world. And I know it's important as well, but those distractions also keep this administration from being held accountable because people think it's over. Oh, nothing's happening at the border. I'm here to tell you that it's actually worse than it's ever been.
So, Victor, we had Tara Rodas, the DHS whistleblower, who was telling some pretty unbelievable and incredible stories. And when you factor that children are being brought in, well, people are coming into El Paso County with those adults with children at 6,000 a day. And we're misplacing children. They're in facilities for 10 days. And then from there, we don't know where they go. What is the ramifications? If you can lay it out for the regular, everyday working American, what can they expect to start seeing change in their community due to this prolific scattering of illegal immigrants who don't know the language, don't know the culture, don't know their rights, and are here literally for the black market American dream?
Thank you for that question, because that, I think, is the most important question. This is the ripple effect that is going to affect you in your community. And they're not all big cities like New York. Most of them are small counties, small cities that do not have the resources. Let's start with the school systems. As school is starting, all of a sudden, even 30 kids, brand new kids from all over the world, Central America, Asia, Europe, they're like, what do we do with these kids? Well, they're taking all the resources for language, for health concerns. These kids have never been vaccinated for anything. And so they're bringing a lot of diseases, a lot of stuff that we haven't seen in our country in a long time. And they're overwhelming the local hospitals and emergency rooms. They're using them as their primary care facilities that you and I continue to pay for. The economic impact that is occurring on these local jurisdictions. I was in Oklahoma, I was in Alabama, talking to the sheriffs and the police officers. And then, of course, we talk about the crime. And they tell me, listen, we have a lot of crime in this country right now. There's a surge. We have big problems with the DAs and non-prosecutions, all this stuff that's happening. And then you add on top of that cartel, methamphetamine, fentanyl, illegal alien crime. And they are like throwing their hands up in the air and telling me, we don't know what to do. We still have the same amount of police officers. We have no additional resources. Now you have hundreds of people in some of these cities that are making a huge impact. And it's time for the local citizen. I tell people, I know I'm running for U.S. Congress, but I'm a big advocate for local politics and local community activism, saying you have to first of all, wake up. And you have to say, listen, who's my person? Who's the representative that represents my block? And get in touch with them. You put them there. They work for you. That's what I want to go for. I'm running for Congress. I want to be the employee of the people, right? And I want to change that. That's what this is. It's a constitutional republic where I am the voice of the community in Washington, D.C. This is where we have to get back to empower the people to question the elected officials and saying, are you going to put illegal aliens from all over the world first, or my son or my daughter who needs help in history, who needs help in math, who needs help in reading? And this is where it's upside down and backwards, because this administration is favoring everyone else except the American citizen.
It's incredible. Victor, please tell people where they can find you one more time, support your campaign. Again, this is not new. What you're doing right now, running for Congress, is an extension of the work you've been doing for years. You've already laid your life down by the grace of God. You're still with us. But this is not new, what you've been doing. I know you're going to be a great defender there in Congress. How can people find you, support you, and fund this really essential and important campaign for Congress?
I do need your funding. Visit VictorAvilaForCongress.com. Help me get there. Help me do a big change. You're going to get a warrior. You're going to get someone that's unafraid, that's going to question everything. And you're going to get a natural investigator, as I've been all my career. So visit VictorAvilaForCongress.com. Yes, your donations are welcome. These things cost a bunch of money. Give me a shot to get in there and make a difference.
Victor, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for the true report on what's happening in the southern border. Wow. I tell you, we always are saying we want the real thing. We want people who will represent us. We want truth tellers. We want fighters. If you don't know Victor's story, he was a Homeland Security, worked on the border, DHS, and he was actually shot by the very guns that were sold by our administration to the cartel. His partner died. He barely escaped with his own life, and has been proclaiming loudly what is needed on the border and what's happening in our country. The guy is so unafraid. It's unbelievable. Stand up for him. Go support him. Drop some money in that campaign. We're going to move right along, because elections have serious consequences. Not only is it a matter of the border, but these elections are selecting people who have no reasonable thought towards representing you and I. And Candace Taylor, who ran for, governor of Georgia. Georgia's the hot state right now. Everybody's paying attention to what's happening there. President Trump's famous mugshot comes out of Fulton County, Georgia. And it might be noted, Martin Luther King also had his famous famous mugshot from the same place. It's interesting how the federal government tries to shut down the truth tellers and those who are speaking up for us and speaking out on our behalf. Candace Taylor, thank you so much for being with you. There is so much happening in Georgia. Catch us up on what is most important and what the citizens of this country need to be paying attention to.
Well, what's most important is our First Amendment right has been infringed on daily, not only by the Democrats that indicted 19 people unjustly, ridiculous Fannie Willis in Atlanta, Georgia, but also even our Republicans, well, fake Republicans that call themselves Republicans, they're even infringing on our First Amendment right by having a private event that they advertised as a Georgia GOP event, sold tickets for it, didn't specify about clothing, and then they came up on Saturday and would not allow people that had paper pleas, voter GA, anything that wanted to get rid of these voting machines on their shirts. They were not allowed to enter. In fact, they were told, if you do not leave or change your shirt, you will be arrested for criminal trespassing.
So last night, actually on Brandon House, Mike Lindell's brief, you were on along with a couple other guests we're going to have on with us tomorrow, and we're going to show the video of Brian Kemp. Yes, that these people were escorted out, asked to change their clothing. They couldn't wear a shirt that said paper please. And I was laughing so hard because I would have never said please, but that is the way of you Georgians. You guys are so respectful and so sweet. I really couldn't believe that they asked them to leave and go change their clothes, which they did do. But more than that was the statement that was made by Brian Kemp. It has been recorded. We're going to show the video tomorrow where he admits readily that the voting machines can be hacked.
That's right. And then he also was aggressive coming at Field Cersei from Grady County whenever he was recording, and he just said, "Sir, we just want transparency in elections." And he kind of bowed up, like went at him, and his daughter, his wife's pulling him away, and his daughter says, "Sir, it's not worth it." What's not worth it? An arrest? Are you going to arrest me for videoing and holding you to the line, holding the line where you said that voting machines can be hacked? I couldn't believe she did that.
That was the governor. So the governor of Georgia was very aggressive towards citizens who had come. They bought a ticket. They paid for the event under the premise that this was a Republican event. And the daughter is heard saying, "Sir, it's not worth it." I found that to be very threatening, again, because you guys are such a polite people that when I hear someone say something like that, they mean a lot more. It's a little bit like bless your heart. We all know what that really means in the South. That's what I thought when I heard Brian Kemp's daughter warn, threaten, warn, whatever, that what he was doing wasn't going to be worth it. And what was he doing? He was trying to speak to the governor.
Right. And then I don't know if you heard this yesterday, Sherronna, but we had an email released from the GBI who was sent to all the Georgia legislators. And what the email said was, is if you feel threatened in any way, report this immediately to this hotline, GBI hotline, and we'll also notify your local authorities, and we'll be getting with them and we'll handle these threats. So who's threatening who? Because we pray for our Georgia legislators. We email them. We write them letters. We call them. We approach them calmly and rationally and say, "Hey, we really want paper ballots. We don't trust the machines. Could you please call a special session?" No, I'm not calling a special session. Brad Raffensperger got so mad that he left and didn't even speak at the event. I was speaking in Augusta, Georgia, and one of Kemp's floor leaders came at me for 20 minutes debating me. The room was so irate with her. I had to pray over her and calm everybody down because they were so angry. She literally said, for Brian Kemp, she literally said, "Y'all are just a few people. There were 100 people in that room. You're just a few people. The majority of Georgia likes voting on the machines. They don't feel like you do." And the people went crazy. They're like, "Oh no, that is not true." So because we're speaking back, we're not just playing patty cake, bowing down, worshiping, we're saying no more, then now we're being threatening. No, I'm threatened by the Luciferian left that sends me letters from the Satanic Church in Colorado, or that sends me hate mail, or swats my house and has red dots on my daughter by rifles and weaponizing my law enforcement against me, trying to kill my family. That's threatening. What we do, holding you accountable, that's not a threat. That's our right.
It is. It's so alarming, isn't it? And actually, I'm starting to see the secretaries of state, led by Jenna Griswold, who is the head of the Democrat Association of Secretaries of State. They're putting out on Twitter now, do you feel threatened? Do you feel insecure? Do you feel unsafe? They're literally starting to poll these elected officials who know they are supposed to be held accountable by we, the people. And, 19% of the clerks apparently said, no, I don't feel threatened. You know why? Because they're not doing anything nefarious. They have a great relationship with their community. Those who don't have a great relationship, who it's been very evident that they're doing, underhanded things, they're being very undermining, they're not being honest and integral, they've been caught in lie after lie after lie, well, they're going to have a little bit harder time. But it's interesting because, like your shirt said, paper please, the last people on earth that these elected officials need to be concerned about doing harm to them is the everyday average conservative Christian. I mean, that is not the group to be worried about. What have we seen actually happen? Let's take us back even in Wisconsin. What we have actually seen in Colorado, in Georgia, in Alabama, all throughout the country, we saw the left, we saw Antifa, we saw Black Lives Matter, we saw wackadoodle progressive Democrats who were out in the street burning buildings down, burning businesses down, harassing. I'll never forget watching Rand Paul and his wife be literally surrounded. Do you remember that? That
Yes.
was not conservatives or Republicans ever doing that stuff. That is reserved for this block of the political movement, the progressive,
Sherronna,
socialist,
and the
Marxists.
transgender shooters that we
Oh my
have.
gosh. Yes.
But you know what, Sherronna, I literally got messages today on my phone that said that I should quit fighting the Republicans, that it's the Democrats. Yes, it's the Democrats. We know. But guess what? If you're calling yourself a Republican and you're not letting people in an event because they wear paper please, if you are acting like a Democrat and you're supporting this rhetoric and this shutting down of our voice, then guess what? You're the problem too. And I'm going to call you out. No, I'm not going to play nice. No, I'm not going to pretend and play house. No, I'm going to call you out because this is an informational war. And I never want this to progress more. I want us to fix it now. I want to fix it. Bless your heart. I want to fix it with all these innuendos that we know that we use. Yes, sir. Let's, whatever. I don't want it getting violent. I do not want that. In fact, I said that at Mike Lindell's event in an interview, and a left crazy Instagram person on TikTok too, they posted this on both places, had me saying and flipped my words and said that I was a terrorist and I'm threatening civil war. When I literally said, I do not want us ever to go to war. We've got to fix this now. I do not want us ever to go to war. But that's what they do. I said, oh, so you're hearing what I said backwards. Is that what we're doing here? So I say something and you twist it. I'm so sick of the rhetoric. No, we're saying plainly, we're going to get rid of the machines. We're going to vote on paper. We're going to count it ourselves. It's our country.
100%. And I could not agree more with what you just said. And speaking of which, the Republicans getting in the way of what the Americans are doing all across the country, freedom loving conservatives, Republicans who are on the ground working, the resolution for election integrity just passed through the RNC. This was a hard fought. It was a long work. We'll just put it long work. I want to just really voice my appreciation to Tyler Boyer, committee man from Arizona, and several others who will go unnamed as of this point till they're ready to have their faces out there. But they worked very hard to help us put forward a resolution that would do exactly what you're saying. Hold the RNC accountable, hold the GOP accountable to supporting the work of the people on the ground who these efforts are closest to. I mean, we have seen such an uptick because of Trump, because he did empower the people and say, this is yours. It belongs to you. Let's go. Help me do this. I'm giving it back to you. Because of that, many people have gotten, like you described, they want the power for themselves and they're very reluctant to let us little people be a part of the process. What do you think of the resolution that was passed, and how will this affect things in Georgia, do you think?
I told Mike Linnell last night, I'm so thankful. Our two representatives from Georgia, our committee man and committee woman, they supported it. I'm so thankful for what they did. And we're already we're bringing it before our executive committee and then our state committee to vote on it for Georgia. And we have taken over the GOP GOP with conservatives, and we have very few campers that worship the ground he walks on, because he has these people, this cult following that worship him like he's a king. They don't care if the elections are fair and legal. As long as their king is in office, they don't care. Literally, they've told me that they do not care as long as he's governor, as long as he goes in to be vice president, or as long as he's U.S. senator. They don't care. And that right there, that mentality, people that say, oh, y'all worship an orange king and all this that they say about Trump. No, sir, no, ma'am. This right here, not caring about fair legal voting, that is the worship of a dictator. Not us wanting fair legal voting and then we want to vote and it be fair and whoever wins, whether it's Republican or Democrat. But we know America's conservative. We know Georgia's conservative, and Georgia is all on the line. If we lose Georgia, we will not win the White House. And we have got a debacle going on over here. But we're working, and we're not going to stop, and we're not going to be harassed and threatened and shut up. No, the threat comes to us because they want us to shut our mouth and not expose the truth. But we are going to expose the truth, and we're going to get fair legal voting in Georgia. We are.
I know you guys are. We're standing there with you. Candace Taylor, thank you so much. Dr. Candace Taylor at that. Thank you so much for being with us here on America's Mom. In our last couple of minutes together, I want to remind you how important and significant it is every time that a regular citizen stands up and says, we will not comply. It is with elections not transparent, not secure, and aren't being done correctly. Here in the state of Texas, we literally are using machines that are against the law. Dr. Walter Duarte is going to be joining us this next week, and we're going to talk a little bit about how the law already prevents the use of these black box machines that we don't know what's going on inside of them. I can't be emphatic enough. No one's allowed to see inside the black box voting machines. And I talked about this yesterday simply because we are in election season. We've got primaries coming up. And quite frankly, everybody's already gearing up for the 2024 election. There's so much commentary about whether or not there will even be a 2024 election. I believe there will be. I'm very hopeful, especially once the plan was put forward by Mike Lindell and the over 300,000 volunteers across America who are now working in their neighborhoods, working with their local committees, GOP, conservative groups, all of these incredible organizations all across the country that have been formed to help secure your local backyard. As much as the presidency matters, and we know that because we can feel what has happened under Biden. I mean, you heard from Victor today what it is costing the people of Texas and by extension, all of you. Remember, they're putting these illegals on buses and planes, as Victor described, and flying them into your rural small town communities to change the dynamics, to change the culture, to take the resources and to cause chaos in your community, to upset the balance there. This is done purposefully. This is definitely a color war. If you're not sure what that means, you're going to want to go check out Color Revolution and see what they've done before, they're doing again. But you know what is so alarming to think about is most of these people believed they were coming to America for something better, not realizing America is not for the black market. It is for freedom. It is to be standing in the light and doing exactly what God intended and created you to do, not hiding in the shadows of society, hoping you won't get caught, and never fully having freedom, never fully having liberty, never being able to proclaim that you are, in fact, an American. It's worth pausing and thinking about as people talk about amnesty or people talk about the humanitarian project of bringing in millions of people from other countries into America. All boats rise when America is doing well. All countries excel when America is doing well. But what's been happening is Biden's administration and the CCP partnership there work actively and aggressively to demoralize this country. The ships are sinking, guys. And the only hope we have is we, the people. So when you hear Candace Taylor and people like her, Victor Avila, and they're standing up and they're vocal, Mike Lindell, we must get behind them. We must support them and stand with them and then be those people that our founders desperately hoped that we would be. Thank you for joining me today on America's Mom. I want to remind you again how incredibly important it is for you to hold the line, stand with us, and fight the good fight because this country is absolutely worth saving.